once great state. I urge you, don't be today's Coloradans, that future Coloradans look back on and go, what were they thinking? Please kill this bill and send a message. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Daniel Jablonski, please.
Members of the council, am I not on? Okay. Members of the council, Colorado plans on securing bills that will pass laws assuring that people can safely participate in the trade and usage of lethal illicit drugs while simultaneously passing laws restricting their second guaranteed right as a citizen to defend themselves from tyranny with arms. My first concern when looking at our neighbors to the south in countries such as Mexico and Colombia, you can see that a collaboration of the aforementioned measures will lead to an increase and promotion of narco-terrorism and addiction, specifically amongst Colorado's youth. Such a blatant impairment of Coloradans' judgment will lead to people being sexually exploited, a miseducation of survival instincts, a misdirection of people, and a mishandling of coping with everyday stress and anxiety. Of course, the good news with these sites is that no one has ever died inside of one. However, people becoming enabled to freely purchase drugs bring them to a government-supervised location that facilitates the act of allowing people it is sworn to protect to break the laws it is sworn to uphold, only to inform them they are suffering from a disease and they are in need of more parenting and dependence doesn't strike me as a method that will build a stronger Colorado. And how disgusting that in Vancouver, as I'm sure you're all aware, over 1,500 people per year are dying from overdose deaths just 1 block away from the safe injection site on the east side of its downtown. That is 4 people per day on 1 city block. Are you prepared to witness something like that in your district? What makes you think we can do better? This state has demeaned its law enforcement. Our high school graduation rate is the lowest it's been in 10 years. We literally have over 2,000 staffing needs in the medical field in our state. And lastly, I'm failing to see stated in the bill how the funding for these facilities will be provided. Nothing about the idea of safe injection sites, overdose prevention centers, build stronger individuals, stronger families, or stronger Colorado. Members of the committee, I vehemently disagree with every aspect of this bill. I hope you all humbly reject it along with its obvious consequences for our state. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Chief Sedar.
Madam Chair, thank you very much for your time. It's a
really strange word to it, and everybody thinks it's just this, or it's just needle exchange. And harm reduction is all of those things, because you're trying to reduce the harm that is happening to people. And so if we depoliticize the word a little bit and start to use it in that context, I think it'd be better. And the last thing I will say is the umbrella to all of this is education. There's a lot of money that's coming from this opioid, to the opioid councils, and all the opioid councils are talking about the same thing. How do we inject education into our schools, into a community, to understand the pathway into addiction and out?
Thank you so much. All right, I'm sorry. Mr. Jablonski?
Yeah, thank you. Just to build on the point of sustained treatment too, I came down here last year and testified for a bill, I believe it was Senate Bill 77, which was the Interstate Counseling Compact. That passed through committees unanimously, and this has talked about the overdose opioid issue on a national level. And I think that we did the right thing last year. Legislature did the right thing last year by passing the Interstate Counseling Compact. And that can help us work with our neighbors and our partners nationally to provide a solution to this issue. And I would recommend that we revisit that bill and re-magnify it so that we have additional resources in Colorado that stretch through telehealth or other providers that can come here and provide treatment. And then also I firmly believe education as well. It starts with the youth. Nothing feels worse than doing something stupid and having a kid look at you like you're stupid for doing it. So I think that if we have our children well educated and provide them with scenarios where they're trained to see situations like opioid addiction and know better. Yes, sir.
Representative Holter.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your testimony about education. and I'm gonna ask you this question because maybe you can relate to this because you brought it up. In our communities, in our schools, within our youth, for decades I have watched this. I saw it in my lifetime, in my youth growing up. This subculture of let's do drugs. Drugs are cool. We can blow our minds. Let's try this or that or the other. Unbeknownst to parents, to faculty in schools, to community leaders, or maybe beknownst, this was going on. Some people, some youth rejected this. Partly from education, maybe partly from family norms, or from other influencers, mentors, coaches, leaders. How do we get this message with education out across our sick society? Sick. That all of this illicit drug use and this dangerous drug use is not okay. And if we want to talk about wellness, we want to talk about a healthy society, we've got to get away from the poison. The poison that is like acid in our community. So help me with this education piece, because this is something that, how do we do this? Because I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. I don't hear it. I hear about all these enabling, empowering, and what we're going to do to help people, or maybe just everything goes. I mean, the easy answer is just make it all legal. To heck with it. Let everybody have everything and do whatever. And then we, at the state, unfortunately, as we sit in these chairs, have to deal with the cost and consequence. Because everybody comes back asking for more money to solve the problems. They're called fiscal notes. And we're already almost a $41 billion and climbing on the state budget. So maybe you can help me, maybe other people in the panel can help me. But this education piece is huge. And I don't see it. I don't see it in this bill. I don't see it anywhere in this state capitol for any piece of legislation in this terrible situation we have in our drug culture, in our drugged-up society, and these communities. And maybe I'm just a country boy, I'm a hayseed from eastern Colorado, and I don't know what I'm talking about. But I don't see it. And I'll admit that if that's the case. So please help me with that.
Mr. Jablonski.
I have a lot of hope for today's youth. I think they are the brightest, most well-informed, sharpest, quick on their feet generation. They're a lot more aware of what's around them than I was at that age as well. So I think that the groundwork for them making decisions to stay away from self-harm is already laid out. It's just going to be up to us to maintain that through those trialing times when they're going through their teen years and entering their preteen years. And I think a lot of what we can do in the community is, I know this is kind of beyond government, but our sports teams and our heroes can get more involved and get these kids, get their legs moving, keep them occupied, teach them things like teamwork and what they can do, volunteer work inside of schools, maybe making a mandatory volunteer credit required to pass through high school if that's possible. I think that there's so many ways to approach it, whether it be physically, educationally, by having local PD departments come in. Like I remember, I went to El Dorado K-8 in Superior, and I remember Boulder County sheriffs coming in and showing us pictures of what these things look like, and here's what can happen, and here's the story. And with the youth today, they're very, like I said, they're very smart. And I think that if they see us guiding them in the right direction, they'll make those decisions, and we can help this out.
Mr. Tubbs.
Thank you, Representative Voltorb. I think one of the things that concerns hundreds of millions of Americans is they don't have to care about it until it impacts them or their family. And this fentanyl epidemic, this crisis is only going to get worse. I'm not quite sure where the opposition would be. The cartels are certainly that operate in the Denver